Welcome to the Wingman Show. Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome. My name is Drew Brown. This is the Wingman Show, and my wingman is Dr. Paul Thompson. Dr. Paul Thompson, how you doing today, my main man?
Doing pretty good today. Hope you're doing all right. It's still dark over here, but I'm glad to be up in the morning early talking to you.
I sure am too, Doc. This is a great day today. A great day. But you have a great wingman also.
Yes, I do. I do. You know Motown songs.
I love them.
You remember the Temptations?
Yes.
All right. Well, this wingman doesn't have anything to do with the Temptations, but there's a line in one of the famous songs, "Vote for me and I'll set you free." Keep that in mind.
Wow. How about that?
Keep that in mind.
That's a good one, Doc. That's a good one. Oh, I want to start doing this. Behind me are two A6s. Those are the jets that I flew. And those two A6s right there, if we took the doors off, could carry 28 500-pound bombs apiece. So that would be 56 500-pound bombs for me and a wingman to come in with. That's a lot of ordnance. But Doc, what do you have behind you? What kind of jets? And for you who watch us on YouTube, you can see these badass jets. What do you have behind you, Doc?
This is a nice little formation picture I saw. It's four F-4 Phantom 2s from the Navy. Can't tell the squadron, but for the picture, they all got their hooks down, probably getting ready to land. But that's a nice little photo op, it looks like, for a cruise book picture. Yeah, the F-4 Phantom was a mainstay of the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps for quite a while.
It was a badass looking jet, boy.
It is. Not kind of simple on the inside, but hey, great performance. It's not like the magic, fourth and fifth generation airplanes you have today.
But isn't it the first one with afterburners?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, the F-8 had afterburners.
Yeah, Navy F-8 had burners for sure.
That's true. But we welcome all our frequent flyers, all the people who watch us all the time. We want to really thank you. Anybody new, welcome to the Wingman Show. I want to give a shout out to Carlos, my man, because he answered us back. And he was, talked about that fight that happened last week between the basketball players. Well, it wasn't a fight. It was just a punch.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to put up this picture of Shaq that you sent me, this buffed picture of this big ass dude. And the question is, no, he wouldn't have hit Shaq. And what I didn't like about the whole incident is nobody in the media talked about it was a big guy pushing up on a little guy. It wasn't fair from the beginning. But anyway, I wanted to shout that out so I could show this picture of Shaq.
Yeah, it's a good picture.
Oh, it's a badass picture.
He wouldn't have hit him. He wouldn't have hit him and a whole lot of other people. If you remember the 80s and the 90s, and with anybody on the Knicks and the Miami Heat, no,
I don't think so.
No,
and all of you frequent flyers and new listeners, if you would, put a review up for us on Apple Podcasts. We really would appreciate that. Well, we have some good news for all our listeners. We've done 83 shows, and we've busted our ass for a couple years now. Every day we work, and we just received our first sponsor. Now, it's not for a lot of money, actually, but it's a first sponsor, and it meant a lot to us. And what we're going to do is we're going to take you with us through this journey. The sponsor is called Magic Minds. And it's an all-natural formula that's supposed to give you a boost, like a 5-hour energy boost, but it's supposed to really give you focus and energy. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this stuff along with you. So next week, we're going to start a 2-week program, and we'll let you know how it works. Dr. Paul and I have money, so we don't need money enough to try to tell you something that's not true. And I promise you, from this show, we won't ever back anything that we don't believe in. I mean, I talk about Peloton, Dr. Paul talks about Costco, and only because we go there and we like it. So I promise you one thing from the Wingman Show, we will not sell out. And if this stuff is good, I'll be so excited because I could sure use some focus. What do you think, Doc, about our new sponsor?
Yeah, I'm kind of humbled that someone took notice of us and really wants us to push their product. I'm looking forward to getting it. Look at the ingredients. The ingredients look like they're good things. I was never a fan of the energy drinks. There's one of them that says such and such will give you wings. well, you may get the wrong kind of wings. I don't want the wings that way to overstimulate the heart or something crazy. But this
100%.
this concoction has natural elements in it and elements that I take now on my own. So we'll see how it works.
We'll see how it works. Well, my son, the board-certified spine surgeon, Dr. Drew Jacques Brown IV. Well, anyway, when I told him about the sponsorship, he looked it up on the web. He looked at their website, and he actually ordered. He ordered some. So he's going to be taking along with us. And we'll also have a discount code next week that we'll put up there. And I think you can get 40% off if you put our Wingman Show thing down. But we'll see what happens. The one thing I do know is that we only will promote things that are good for you, mind, body, and spirit. I promise you that. So this is funny. When we were replying back to this sponsor about agreeing to do the shows, I sent Dr. Paul a letter that we wrote just for him to edit it. And there were two spaces. There was a mistake I put in. And instead of admitting a mistake, I told him, and this brought up the subject, I said, no, that was just an Easter egg. And this came with a whole topic. An Easter egg is what they used to do to us back at FedEx when we started flying the 727 flight engineer panel. And that was the very first job most pilots came in when we went there. Most pilots came in as a flight engineer for 727. And an Easter egg is something on the panel that your instructor did before you got there that was wrong and you had to find it. And that was called an Easter egg. And then Dr. Paul and I started talking about our panel experiences in the 7.2. And I'll tell you, it was the hardest damn thing I've ever done, only because it wasn't flying. It was systems. It was hydraulics. It was fuel. It was electrical. It was so many systems you had to look at and dials and gauges. And this is the first time since the Navy that I could get fired if I didn't do good. So I had 2 children, a wife. We just moved to Memphis, and it was hard as hell. Tell me about the engineer panel. Oh, last thing. When you were up on the panel, it seemed like everything was miscombobulated. Everything was everywhere. But when you saw one of your classmates go in front of the panel and you stood behind them, it seemed like the whole world opened up and you saw all the problems because you weren't on the panel. Dr. Paul, tell me about a 727 flight engineer, which you actually became a captain of that airplane.
Yeah. I flew all 3 crew positions. The engineer part was very interesting. Again, it was a transition. There were a lot of guys who came from other airlines who had already done that job, so they knew some things. But for someone else starting fresh, it really had nothing to do with flying. You were kind of a maintenance man sitting in the back there, and the guys up front did the actual flying. You're doing things now. To those who don't know, that's old technology. That plane was developed in the 50s. And FedEx flew it into the 20th century, which was unusual. But that technology is gone now. It's been gone. Everything's been two-piloted for probably the better part of the last 40 years that I know of, unless you got some legacy thing. The thing is that it was an important position because there were things that the pilots really couldn't control, that the engineer had to control, had to pay attention. And it was weird because you sat sideways, and you're part of the crew, but you're not part of the crew. You had to swivel your chair. You're in and out. You're getting coffee, doing all kinds of other things.
Wait. What did you say? You're getting what?
Coffee. I didn't talk about it.
Okay, Dr. Paul, you know damn well that was the number one part of our job.
Correct.
The captain wanted his coffee.
The coffee jug. You had to carry the coffee jug.
That's right.
Make the coffee. And I want the coffee with 2 creams, 1 sugar, whatever, and you're figuring out the performance. Can the airplane get off the ground? How's it going to go? You had to give them the airspeeds. This is pretty important stuff.
How many books did we have to have on those planes?
I think there were 4 manuals in total.
Big manuals.
Yeah, bag you carried, and it probably weighed about 35 to 40 pounds or so, to the point where we had all this paperwork, which everybody carries an iPad now. You can put in your pocket. But
everybody carries an iPad.
You carried all this stuff. Books. And think about the number of people who were injured, who went out with back injuries on disability, just picking that thing up at different times at the end of the flight. I think they are getting older. And strangely enough, it seemed to be harder to come back to get your medical license back after a back injury than it was if you had a heart problem.
Yeah, and a lot of pilots back then flew with those big wallets. You know how men have big wallets in their back pocket, and sitting on that wallet for long flights would actually hurt their spines.
Screw you up.
And they had back problems.
And I did that too until a chiropractor said, you need to stop doing that. And that was my habit.
Well, I did that until I finally lost a wallet, and I said, I'm not carrying a wallet no more.
Oh, yeah. It's easiest way to get
3 credit cards, a license, my insurance card, and that'll be it.
Yeah. You get pickpocketed easy that way. That was the old days. But yeah, being an engineer was interesting. I did that for 2 years, learned a lot of stuff. But now that position's gone because computers do it. Computers they probably 4 or 5 computers do 10 times as much. But it was a good introduction in terms of how the operation worked, because you could look and watch and observe.
And the most important thing we had to do is the payroll. We actually had to do the pay log on the flight, how many hours, this and that. And that's where the other pilots were very interested in your correctness of pay, because they wanted to get paid.
Yeah, you're right. Those are the 2 most important things, the coffee jug and the pay logs.
That's right.
After you did the pre-flight, you were busy. The engineer on the airplane did probably 60% of the work.
We had to do the pre-flight, remember? Yeah. Rain, sun, shines, cold, heat. It didn't matter. We were the ones walking around that airplane.
Yeah, you were busy. You were busy.
Yeah. Well, now talking about pay, Dr. Paul, when we first started this show, we pushing education and money. We want Americans to have a good income, so life is not so hard. And we know to get that through education. It's a guarantee. One of the things that we teach about financial education, the way I started was with mutual funds. And I just want to talk about it a little bit. You know much more than I do. But the basic of mutual funds is, let's say that you really thought Exxon was going to do good, but you didn't know if you wanted to put your money in Exxon or BP, or if you wanted to go to Shell or this gas station. Well, a mutual fund is a fund that takes all the gas stations. And you have a group of people every day to see which one is better. And they buy and they sell, but all in gas. So instead of buying one company, you could buy almost hundreds of companies in that sector. The sectors are like hospitality. So that would be all the hotels, transportation. That would be airlines. That would be trucking companies. You could do hospitals, medical. There are a lot of different mutual funds you can get into and kind of spread that money around. And that's important. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Can you give me a little bit about mutual funds there, Doctor?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Don't put all your baskets in one egg and all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, basically you're dividing your risk. It would be good if you could just pick one stock and you would do well. But what if it doesn't do well? So by breaking up the risk and dividing it amongst other things, you're less likely to have a bad crash. At the same time, you're not going to get wealthy overnight. It's over periods of time. But the biggest thing is the diversification. That's the investment managers favor saying diversification. Because there are all kinds of funds. There's transportation. There's hundreds of kinds. But the thing is, if the net asset value goes up, the value of your investment goes up. And that value is the value of everything that the fund owns divided by the number of shares, and that gives you the price. And if those holdings have dividends, they have to declare stock dividends, you get that too, even in the mutual fund. If you had the stock, yeah, you can get a dividend. That dividend's a little payout the company will give you if they've done very well.
Every quarter.
Yeah, every quarter. We're going to give, X number of cents, maybe 10 cents per share. So if you own 1 share of the stock, you get another 10 cents.
But you can also check a box. Can't you also check a box in your investments that you take that dividend and put it back into that same investment?
Yeah, to reinvest. Yeah, say I don't want the money. Let's just let it grow, which I think is the best thing to do. So you get that money and you don't even get taxed on it until you cash it in. So theoretically, it could grow forever and ever and ever. So, mutual funds are pretty good. They're not that exciting, but there are many types. Some are index funds, some are target funds that will look at the year 2042 or 2055 and invest in a bunch of things that they think will do well in 40, 50 years. And I think that favors people who are young, just getting started. So you got a lot of choices. All your big companies, all your big stock companies will offer that as a possibility if you want to invest in them. Very easy to do. Doesn't take much money to start. You don't need that. Sometimes you can start as little as $100, maybe less.
$100 will start you off.
Maybe less.
In Schwab, in Fidelity. I do Fidelity, and I'm only telling you that because that's what I do. That's who I use. This is what's real important, Dr. Paul. You and I are giving some good pointers, but you can actually sit down with these companies and talk to them. And they know way more than, well, maybe not more than Dr. Paul, but they know way more than I do. But the truth is that people would help you with this investment. And I'm telling you, if you're making money, the idea is to have your money make money. And in the long run, you will come out okay. The stock market doesn't lose in the long run. And I hope everybody gets some of this financial information. And we're going to put this out in our newsletter, actually, wingmenshow.com. Wingmenshow.com. You can get all of our shows and you can find out about our newsletter. Yes. All right, Dr. Paul, guess what I finally did? This is called change. I can't believe this happened, but I'm going to share it with you. I love rap music. I love rock and roll. I was doing some work in the office and I was listening to some pumping rap. And do you know what I did? What? I turned it down.
Turn that damn music down.
I've never turned rap or rock and roll down in my life. And I guess I'm at that age now. It was just a little too loud. My hearing's all not that great either because of being on the flight deck and around jets and listening to rock and roll and rap all the time. My hearing's not the best. But for some reason, the volume was just a little too much and I'm getting older and mature. And I just thought I'd share that with you because this is what I want to talk about. It's change. Mm-hmm. How do we deal with change? There's a lot of things happening out here, Dr. Paul, that are not good. A lot of negativity. If you watch the news, people are dying every day by all kinds of methods. Well, there has to be an alternative to this, Dr. Paul. And hopefully this show brings an alternative to that because there are good things out there. There are good people out there. And actually, the good people, yes, we outnumber the bad people by a lot. But this show will bring you an alternative to negativity. How do you deal with change? Well, you got to know the rules because they change with the game. And this is a good time for a Wingman PSA. This is a Wingman PSA. The 11 Facts in Life, fact number 5, part 2. Education is necessary. Knowledge is mandatory. Know the rules. They change with the game. This has been a Wingman PSA. Education is necessary. Knowledge is mandatory. What do you think, Doc?
You know, I saw somewhere where it's estimated that the amount of information in the world doubles every 5 years.
Wow.
Total amount of information. And that's been enabled through supercomputers, basically, which, you know, you probably have one in your pocket. That's a supercomputer. That's a small supercomputer. And that basically things do change and we need to stay up to date. You have to be educated just to use your phone, which I can barely do unless you have like some fifth grader telling you, the latest things. So younger people typically are up on change. Problem is, as you get older, you get a little more set in your ways. You don't want to change. It's a little more work. I don't want to be bothered. I want to keep it simple. That's right. Good and bad. You need to be efficient, but you have to open yourself up to other worlds that may make your life better and easier. Plus, a lot of things just stop. All of a sudden, hey, we're going digital, we're going this, we're going that. And all you know how to do is write stuff on a little yellow piece of paper. Well, there's no paper.
There's no more. Right. It's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, you have to. You have to learn.
Well, just like we fly in airplanes. When I first came in the Navy, I knew nothing about an airplane. I damn near didn't even know how to spell aerodynamics. So whatever the Navy taught me how to fly is how I flew. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys in primary, when I first started flying, didn't make it because they were pilots. And they already had their own way of doing things, but it wasn't the Navy way.
Right.
And so that's very important. Know the rules. They change with the game.
Right.
Every jet we flew was a different set of rules. You can't go and say, well, we did this back in the T2. Nobody cares.
Right. Nobody knows what a T2 is.
Different jet, different parameters.
Right.
So know the rules. They change with the game. And I will tell you something. Gratitude is the answer for whenever you're feeling bad. It just is. It just is. One of the things that I did want to talk about that we've talked about before is, do you remember I said during the pandemic, I kind of lost interest in sports? Mm-hmm. Well, I see that that's not true because my Giants are winning. My Knicks look good. And the truth is, I didn't lose interest in sports. My teams weren't doing good. And it got me thinking, a lot of these children and adults who are not doing well or all by themselves, they don't have teams. The idea is to have teams. Your family is a team. Your sports team. Your city is a team. Maybe a musical group is your team. You have to be part of something. And so you got to get more teams. And a lot of these kids and young adolescents don't have a team. They feel all by themselves. They're not part of. Well, that's what the Yankees make me feel good about. You know, they have 27 world championships. And so I can brag about something. But in reality, I'm just bragging about my teams. And my teams make me feel good because I think we as humans all feel like we should be part of something, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, there are a lot of people today who are really, really isolated. This is pre-COVID, but COVID just kicked it up 5 notches at once. It makes it worse. So if you look at, again, not to be negative, but a lot of things involving mass shootings, they seem to be this lone gunman. They're typically not in groups. It's like one person, young person, could be a middle-aged person, could be an old person, but it's one person. They typically are isolated and have some ideology, some craziness. But the consistent thing is they're typically alone or living with their mother or something that's, past a certain age. You've got to try to get out there, be a fan of something, but don't go crazy and go to the ballpark and punch out people because they got a different jersey on. A little more of that happening too.
Well, that's called fanatic. And that's what fans are short for, fanatics. Do not be a fanatic.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good game to start off with then, Dr. Paul. Remember our little games odds? Let's try this one. What are the odds if you're 35 years old plus of having a younger boss than yourself?
Oh, see, 35 plus middle management. I think it depends on the industry, but I'm going to say probably 1 in 115.
1 in 2.5.
Oh, okay.
That's right. And what do you do when you have a superior that's younger than you? If you're smart, you listen to him and you do the best you can. And if you don't like him, you work hard enough so you become his superior.
Yeah, right.
So that's a good one. Okay, how about this one you'll like? And this is our industry, airline. But God bless, we didn't have to have luggage. But airline luggage. What are the odds that you're going to lose your luggage 1 out of how many flights?
Oh, probably 1 out of 150,000.
150,000?
That's a lot.
1 out of 191 flights, you should lose your luggage.
Okay.
Not 150,000. Yeah, it's way shorter than that. But here's the cool thing. Here's a couple of ideas that might help you. Number 1, always rip off your old tags. Like your old identifier tags. Number 2, when they give you new tags, make sure that identifier, if it's DFW, make sure you're going to Dallas. Yes. Make sure you have the correct tag on there. Number 3, put a tracker in your bag. They have those Apple trackers that you can just pop in a bag, and that should show you where your bags are. And I think the best one is don't check your bags.
Yeah, well, I only had a lost luggage thing one time that was a big deal, and it was international. It worked itself out, but I had to take some special action to get my stuff back.
Yeah, I haven't had it too many times, but I don't really check bags. I try my best not to check a bag, and so I don't have that. You like that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So something just happened this last week that's incredible, and it's actually hopefully planet saving. NASA shot a satellite up, hit an asteroid, and knocked it off course. Basically, short way of saying it. Dr. Paul's going to explain it a little bit more. But, the ice age came because they say an asteroid hit the Earth and just knocked everything out. Well, there's a way now to maybe avoid getting hit by an asteroid. And Dr. Paul, why don't you tell us, because this is great. This is actually an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about it a little bit before, but a couple of weeks ago, they sent up a probe. Well, it was a couple of weeks ago. It happened a couple of weeks ago. They actually launched this thing 10 months ago. It took 10 months to reach this little asteroid that they're trying to do this experimental program on to see if they could alter its trajectory. It crashed into it. The vehicle that crashed into it, they said was like the size of like a refrigerator or a vending machine, a Coke machine or something. And what it hit was a fairly small asteroid that might have been 500 feet across or something like that. But there's a lot of precision to do something like that 7 million miles away. That's about how far it was, about 7 million miles away. And they hit the thing, and they finally tracked it, and they found that they've changed the trajectory of it and changed the time frame. It's still moving and spinning, but it's got a little bit of a different path. So that may save the Earth one day. But again, it won't be like a science fiction movie where they go up and do that. Now you're going to do this years in advance. Not blow it up, but just move it a little bit. So the question is, how much force do you need to apply to move a given asteroid? Probably depends on the path and the size of it. Where most of your asteroids are actually is the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. I guess one of those can get loose and come towards the Earth. So there may be hope. Morgan Freeman, maybe the president announced that the Earth is ending and we're putting a few people here and there to start a planet over, or maybe not. It'll probably be an autonomous vehicle that hits it, maybe do a partial explosion, just move it a little bit over a period of time. So
that's amazing. And I think that just may save all of us one day. Well, Dr. Paul, you're about to give us our wingman, but I did want to talk about one thing, and that's about stress. And maybe next week we might have an answer for some of it, because that stuff we're going to take, Magic Mind, that Magic Mind, just for everybody to know, it doesn't get you high. It doesn't get you all fired up. It's designed for a long-term boost in cognition. It's made for energy, and it's really made for stress maintenance and focus. So hopefully this stuff will work. Dr. Paul, will you please tell us about this wingman that you have for us? Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, this wingman. Remember earlier I said something, if you knew the old Temptation song, Ball of Confusion, talking about the state of the world today and things like that. This is 50 years ago. It could have been 50 seconds ago. It was Ball of Confusion, one of the greatest hits. And one of the lines in it is about politicians saying, vote for me and I'll set you free. Well, here's a politician who's a wingman, and he actually did set some people free. Mayor Eddie Daniels of a city called Vienna, Georgia, not Vienna, Austria, Vienna, Georgia. This is the center of the state. Maybe we can have them all one day drive down there. Vienna, Georgia. There's Vienna's all kinds of places. There's a Paris, Tennessee. But Vienna, Georgia, was driving to work. I think he had a second job. But he's the mayor of the city. It's the city of Vienna, population of 4,000. And at 3:45 in the morning, he's on his way to work. I think he has another job. And he sees this SUV kind of off the road, stuck on a railroad tracks. And he notices someone inside. And there's a train approaching. And I think he hears some commotion. He gets out and he sees a woman there. This train is barreling down, and this SUV is literally stuck on the tracks. It's not out of a movie. This has really happened. And he gets her out of the car, and he notices that in the back seat there are 3 children. They're 3 little kids. He gets the first 2 out, Their ages 6, 3, and 1. He gets the 1-year-old out, the 3-year-old out. The train is barreling down on him. And he gets the 6-year-old out as the train actually hits the car.
Wow.
He's between the train and the car and the SUV. Between the train and the SUV, he gets the 6-year-old out safely. The car is knocked. He's hit a bit. He survives, and he ends up with a broken ankle and about 8 stitches on his head. Like a picture, we can show a picture of him with a crutch. But he got them out. We're
going to show a picture of that SUV, which is incredible.
Literally in seconds, maybe a second. And they all survived. They're fine. And he's a mayor. He's a politician. He's a second-time mayor. He's a 2-time mayor who actually set these people free, saved 4 lives, really saved 5 lives himself. And the sad part of the story is the driver, the mother, was actually intoxicated. She was cited for DWI.
Oh, my goodness.
You shouldn't have been there. So think about it. This is personal responsibility. At 3:45 in the morning, unless you're evacuating from a hurricane or some other situation, why are you driving drunk with 3 kids in the back seat?
And stopping on a railroad track.
And a railroad track.
That's why we have a wingman like our man, Eddie Daniels.
Yeah, he's not judging them. He just said, they asked him, he's a hero. No, I'm not a hero. He said, I was just doing God's work, quote unquote.
Well, hopefully that's what we're doing right here, Dr. Paul. We're doing God's Shorty's work. Thank you so much for everything, Dr. Paul. Great wingman story. And once again, we are the alternative to negative news. And I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too. And everybody have a good week.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time. And that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all men and women.